Hello, everyone, and welcome to yet another inspiring episode of The Road to Rediscovery. Thank you so much for all your love and support. Thanks to you, The Road to Rediscovery has become a 5-star podcast on iTunes. So please keep those reviews and comments coming. But more importantly, if there's a special person weighing on your heart who you think needs to know that they're not alone in their time of struggle and despair, please share this podcast with them. We as people have all different journeys. Like snowflakes, no two are alike. With that said, everyone's road has obstacles, rough patches, and dark spots. In fact, that's a guarantee in everyone's journey. Today's guest, of course, is no exception. In 2010, he suffered a severe head injury when hit by a car while on holiday with his girlfriend in the Dominican Republic. Tragically, his girlfriend was killed instantly, while Ben fell into a coma at the mercy of third world hospital care. When Ben came out of his coma, he defied the doctor's prognosis, determined to live the life he intended, including running a marathon, receiving his second master's degree, and writing a book based on his journey called Ben Again. He's had an incredible journey, and it gives me great pleasure to welcome Mr. Ben Clench. Ben, thank you so much for joining us here on the Road to Rediscovery, man.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure. The honor is ours. Now, Ben, I understand details following the accident may be kind of fuzzy for you or maybe non-existent. But can you please describe for us your surroundings as you perceived it when you had some awareness of your surroundings? Were you still in the Dominican Republic or were you back in the UK?
No, amazingly, well, I got £10 insurance just before I went because I was going to visit my girlfriend who was working for the UN in Haiti, and I got really annoyed by my parents saying to me, you've got to have insurance, you've got to get insurance. And I looked everywhere, and all the insurance didn't cover kidnap insurance, which I was worried about because in Haiti, that's quite a risk.
Right.
So I got a £10 insurance. It's like it's nothing really, but it was really
right.
the most fantastic thing to help me, to survive, because I got run over, and then, as you'll see in the book, unbelievably, my dad and brother got on the first flight over to come get me, and they did find me in a public hospital in the Dominican Republic, and they thought, God, he's not going to survive this if we don't get him some proper healthcare, to a good hospital. And they were looking for
absolutely
my insurance documents, and they found a scrap of paper with some reference on it, and then phoned my mum and sister who were back in England. And then as they were looking for other hospitals to take me, they decided on where they were going to transfer me. Literally, as they were putting me in the ambulance to move me, my dad's phone rang, and it was the insurance guy who was actually based in Miami. And he said, if this was my son, I would want this guy, to care for it in this hospital. I had to fight for the insurance company to pay for it. So go for it. Take him here. So at the last minute, the hospital was changed, and I got
Right.
taken to a place with very good care, very good hospital, very good doctor, and then they flew me back to England, still in a coma, back to the
Mm.
NHS, um, which, well, which is, is what is the system in Britain. But it was
Right.
wonderful how, £10 saved my life, really.
Oh, it certainly did. My goodness. I mean, uh, such a wise move to opt for the £10 coverage for your travel. And it's amazing how small, or what appears to us as small, very insignificant changes and adjustments and tweaks really are significant. They have a huge impact. We just don't have that crystal ball to tell, like, down the line, how big of an impact a small decision like that would make, like to opt for the £10 insurance. So that was a huge move. It saved
Yeah,
your life.
definitely.
Would
I
that be
mean,
accurate?
I think the insurance company, I mean, I paid £10 insurance, and I think they spent £90,000 on my care and my air ambulance
Hmm.
back to England while I was still in a coma.
Gotcha. So, Ben, what exactly was the prognosis that you were given by the doctors?
Well, the doctor in the Dominican Republic said, he he's not paralyzed. He will walk again. But he's going to need your support.
Hmm.
Talking to my family, and the
I
one
see.
thing you have to remember is just always follow the patient. And I think that was the advice that, really was fantastic advice and allowed my parents to kind of to look after me when I came out of hospital and follow, the wishes and the aims that I had, which wouldn't have happened otherwise. But it allowed me to take the road towards recovery. Um, you know,
Hmm.
the local doctors and nurses didn't advise, um, which I talk
Hmm.
about in my TED talk. That, you just always have to follow the patient, put them in control of their recovery.
Right. I tell you what, man, and I'm so glad you mentioned that, Ben. I mean, this is absolutely extraordinary because that was one of the questions that I had for you regarding the TED talk that you gave.
Yeah.
That's titled "Follow the Patient." Based on that title, Ben, what was the key thing that you wanted the listeners to learn? What was it to follow? The patient in terms of what direction they're headed, what direction they want to
Yeah,
head in towards
it
recovery.
was basically that, well, whenever a person or a community, whatever, is in crisis, you have to let them,
Hmm.
you have to follow their lead. So, if it's a
I see.
patient or a person, you have to facilitate their own journey to recovery, which whatever it is, you know.
I got you. That makes all kinds of sense. And I never thought of it in that perspective when we have loved ones who are hurt or in the hospital or injured and have to go through recovery.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
That's a great piece of advice.
it
Yeah.
has to be based on their wishes and the direction they want to take. And you know,
Mm-hmm.
as the people around them, they've got to facilitate their wishes so that their recovery can be based on their own frame of mind and what they want to achieve and do.
I see. Well, that makes perfect sense. Um, Now, Ben, for our listeners, can you briefly describe the Ben Clench before the accident?
I was very determined and I knew where I was going to go and what I wanted to do.
Mhm.
Um, and I was very diplomatic as well.
Right?
Um, and, you know, quite
Mm-hmm.
a quiet, clever person. Um, and yeah, my recovery certainly brought out different sides to me, because of my frustration about
Mm-hmm.
trying to be that person again, you know. Um, yeah, and it was a lot about
Absolutely.
me wanting to be the old Ben that there was before I had the accident happened.
Man, Ben, I tell you, I mean, I understand that everyone's struggles are relative
Yeah,
and they're very real, for people. Um, so I would never diminish anyone's despair because it's all relative, right? But my goodness, I mean, just hearing what you've shared thus far, to me, that should motivate any person to get up, brush themselves off, and get back in the game. Although, I won't diminish the fact that the reality of getting
yeah,
back in the game
definitely. I mean,
can be a tough road. Wouldn't you agree?
it can be as it is a tough road in whatever way you look at it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's the decision to get on that road that is that's the thing that means that you
Right.
always have to follow the patient. You know, it it's it would be too easy. For me, for example, after the accident, to say, God, I don't want to do that again. You know,
Right.
I'm gonna be a victim. Um, but I was quite adamant that
It, mm-hmm.
I wasn't gonna do that. I was gonna pick up where I left off. Um, and of course, the reality of that was very much diminished because of the mental state I was in, and I wasn't able to do the same kinds of things
Right.
as a result. Um, which I well, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's different. It is different, but I wouldn't say it's uh, less justified. It's just, I suppose, it's my altered sense of capabilities and being, and the reality of it. You know, I am not the same person as I was
Right.
before. Things are different. I'm slow. I'm not as on the ball as I used to be. I don't have the same skills in terms of I used to be a researcher
Mm-hmm.
for development, for international development. But so for that, I had to
Right.
work very hard and very quickly to the tasks that were given to me. And now I can still get the results,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm much better at discussing and talking to people, not as good at writing um,
Right.
academic text because I can't type in the same way. Things are a lot harder to write down in a snappy format. But there are other things that I would never have done
Right.
before. As I say in my TED talk, the old Ben would not have stood on a stage and
Mm-hmm.
done a speech to 1,500 people as I did do last month. So, so there are massive changes. They're not diminished changes.
Mm-hmm.
They're just different. I express myself differently, and I'm quite happy to share, what I've been through. Like doing this podcast. I would never have done this before my accident, but I'm quite happy to now and quite pleased to be able to do it
I
and
see.
to hopefully give um some learning and learning from my experience to other people who might need to hear it.
For sure. 100%. Yeah. And thank you for that. Thank you for your willingness to share, your experiences. There's a degree of vulnerability that, you must make of yourself when sharing this experience. And I don't take that lightly at all. My listeners don't take that lightly at all. And there's power as well behind being vulnerable. And I know for sure that there is someone listening out there right now to your story, to your journey, that this touches them. This resonates with them. They may be going through something similar, and we want these people to know that they're not alone. So Ben, what would be one of the key things that you have learned on your journey thus far and move
I
forward?
guess the key thing is to be very open and to willingly accept other people's help. Um, there has been so many people who have
Right.
helped me achieve what I have achieved, and there have been a number of people like yourself, for example,
Hmm.
who want to talk to me about it and express what I have been through, um, which I'm quite happy to talk about because because I think it is so valuable to other people who are going through difficult times, and it's just to say that they won't stay like that. Everyone goes through difficult times. But doesn't mean things don't get better. It's just an obstacle you come up against in life. And if you keep going forward, you'll get over it, or, you'll move past it. So it won't be a brick wall that you can't get past.
No, absolutely, for sure. And, it's quite interesting that you said that, because, I feel like that we are in sync in how we're chatting and what we feel, when it comes to how we handle and respond to the struggles and adversities. Because my next question, one of my final questions was, I'm sure there were some dark times in your road to recovery, up to this point. Something as traumatic as this, there's no way to naturally recover without some degree of unwavering optimism, at least in my view. So, was there something that inspired you to have the hope and the optimism?
Well, in my book, it talks about this. My auntie was here. She thought, why on earth isn't Ben awake yet or up? I better see what's happened to him. And at that point, I was
Right.
in bed just crying, and she was like, what's wrong? Have you got earache or something? And my response was like, no, it's not that. It's just I can't remember my old girlfriend who died in the crash. And I was saying that, how can I not remember her? How can I know that these people are my parents and this is my house? And yeah, that was a particularly low point, just because there were so many bits of myself, of my brain, that were missing. And that was, well, just, that was like a whole part of myself that had been stripped away from me. And I don't know, there are things like that which were huge obstacles. But I mean, it was also like, you've just got to keep going, because those memories did come back eventually. It just took a long time.
Gotcha. Well, Ben, I tell you what, man, I again really appreciate your time and chatting with me and sharing with our listeners your journey. For the benefit of our listeners, I just want to once again reemphasize to go out to YouTube for Ben Clench's TEDx talk. Follow the Patient. Do a search on TEDx Brighton. Follow the Patient is the title of Ben's TEDx talk, and listen to it, watch it, okay, and feel it, because you are truly taken back to his situation that he was going through in his life, through your mind's eye, as you listen to how descriptively Ben articulates the story, his journey. Also, look on Amazon for his book, Ben Again, where he talks in detail about the struggles, about the tragedy and the trauma that he has gone through, and what his family has gone through, and so forth, as well as lessons learned and ways that he just kept the determination to accomplish great things in spite of what other people said, based off the brain damage and the extraordinary things that he has accomplished, such as getting that second master's degree and having the TED Talk and running the marathon. So check out the book and the video on YouTube and Amazon, respectfully. That is Ben again for the book, and follow the patient for his TEDx Brighton talk. Ben, I can't tell you how absolutely delighted it has been for chatting with you and learning more about you. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing your journey and the road that you have traveled thus far. We greatly appreciate it and are humbled by your willingness to share this with us. And for those of you listening out there, thank you for tuning in to The Road to Rediscovery. Please remember to view, subscribe to the podcast, and leave some feedback. I want to make this an ever better experience for everyone who listens, and I can only do that with your constructive feedback. So thank you so much, everyone. Until next time, we'll chat again on The Road to Rediscovery.